Kevin Feige just sat down to do a podcast with The Hollywood Reporter, and he talked for the very first time about his Star Wars movie, and he responded to Martin Scorsese's comments. We got to talk about this. It's like the news, but for nerds. Shout out to Zachary Hendricks. Indeed, Malachor 5 was the place that Revan used the mass shadow generator. Make sure you stay at the end of this video where we will ask another nerd card question. What's up, everybody? I'm, of course, Josh. Welcome back to the channel, and this is a pretty cool video, man. For the very first time, Kevin Feige has talked about his Star Wars movie. Interesting stuff, though. He doesn't say a lot there. He also responds to the Martin Scorsese comments, and so let's just talk about this thing and Kevin Feige's comments about both of these situations. Now, let's start with the comments about Martin Scorsese. This has been a big thing, man. It's a big drama. Martin Scorsese talking crap on all the Marvel movies, the comic book movies, that genre. It's blown up. I mean, a lot of people not liking what he has to say about that. A lot of people have opinions about it. This is the very first time that Kevin Feige has publicly spoken about these comments. I love it when we get the word from the horse's mouth, so to speak, from Feige. So let's go over his comments first about that, then we'll talk about his comments about Star Wars. So he says, essentially, and by the way, this is a podcast that he did for The Hollywood Reporter. It is a great podcast. It's like 45 minutes. If you're a Feige stan like me, or you're just interested in what he has to say, very good podcast. Check it out. Listen to the whole thing. I recommend it. But when asked about the recent Martin Scorsese comments, he said, I think that's not true, and I think it's unfortunate. I think myself and everyone who works on these movies loves cinema, loves movies, loves going to the movies, loves to watch a communal experience in a movie theater full of people. And Feige talks, basically starts there, just kind of starts about how saying like it's unfortunate because he loves movies. I'm sure like he loves Scorsese movies in a lot of different ways. The guy went to USC, you know, he's a Boston-born dude and just left to go do the Hollywood thing, man, to chase the dream of being a Hollywood guy, and now he's like the greatest producer of all time. It's pretty incredible stuff. But he's talking about how like they haven't made an Iron Man movie since 2013. They've evolved, they've changed. They're constantly taking risks, talking about how Civil War set these two characters against each other and had a lot of interesting things to say in that film, talking about the risks that they've taken, how they're literally killing half of their characters at the end of one of their big movies. That was a huge risk. They didn't know how people would respond to it. By the way, right up till I think like 2 weeks before that film came out, they were considering changing that ending. They were like, I don't know. And so he says that kind of in direct response to Scorsese implying that these films don't take any risks, that they're sort of put together by these marketing teams and all this stuff. I mean, you've heard a lot of the buzz out there, but this is Feige responding to that, talking about that, and ultimately where he lands on it is pretty interesting. He said everybody has a different definition of cinema, everybody has a different definition of art, everybody has a different definition of risk. Some people don't think it's cinema. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. Everyone is entitled to repeat that opinion. Everyone is entitled to write op-eds about that opinion. And I look forward to what will happen next, but in the meantime, we're going to keep making movies. And so, look, you know, I don't know if that's definitely not as savage as he could have gotten with it. I think it was pretty respectful. And if you listen to the podcast itself, look, Feige, sometimes these things get lost in translation. Listen to the podcast. His words when it comes to this statement. In fact, I'll play a little bit of it right here.
Repeat that opinion. Everyone's entitled to write op-eds about that opinion. And I look forward to what will happen next. But in the meantime, we're going to keep making movies.
But yeah, point being, the tone is not really adversarial or anything like that, but he's just kind of negating what he says, but he says, look, everybody's welcome to an opinion. He's sort of, you could think of it as maybe even taking shots at the press and everybody, because this is the big thing that everybody wants to talk about, but that's essentially where he's at. He's like, look, everybody's entitled to their opinion. We're just going to keep making movies. And I think what he really means is we're going to keep crushing it, dude. And, you know, you can do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. We're just going to keep crushing it. That's essentially the way I read it, and I think that's pretty cool. Okay, now let's talk about his comments about Star Wars. This is a big, interesting thing here because I don't have to tell you guys, there's a lot of just tumultuous things going on with Star Wars right now. People are like, what is going on? Like, where's the advertisements for Star Wars Episode 9? Feige's coming in. Dan and Dave are going. Feige's not taking the 2022 spot. What the heck's going on with Star Wars? So he was asked about it, and he was asked, what do you most want to bring to that universe? And Feige replied, I love that world, and I love the notion of exploring new people and new places in that universe, but that's sort of all that can be said for now. And I do want to speculate about what he means there, but essentially the raw takeaway is new, right? This is going to be new. This is not going to be a continuation of Skywalkers. This is not going to be touching any of that stuff. This is new. That's important, but we will speculate on that in just a second. He was then asked sort of about the situation, like the tumultuous things that are going on in Star Wars, and it was framed in a way where CEO Bob Iger has recently said that there's maybe too much coming out for Star Wars. There's Star Wars fatigue. We're taking this hiatus. I know myself, and many other fans out there are like, it is not a quantity problem. It is a quality problem, and we'll get into that in a second here. But he's asked about this and the potential for Star Wars fatigue, and this is what he says. He said, well, I think they've made 5 movies in about 5 years, and it's made over $5 billion. So I think they're doing just fine with Star Wars, and Rise of Skywalker looks incredible to me. And so pretty corporate-y, right? You know, pretty like journo speak, boilerplate, whatever you want to talk about. But I mean, like, what do you expect the guy to do? Do you expect the guy really to come out there and be like, you know, I'm a Disney guy and I usually like to walk the company line, but wow, they're really screwing up over there. I can't wait to come in there and help them fix it. Like, he's obviously not going to say that, even if he feels that way. And I'm not even sure that he feels that way, right? But I mean, his point is pretty sound. You know, he's talking dollars and cents. The Star Wars movies have made about $5 billion, and technically only 4 of them have come out yet. They'll likely make at least $6 billion, maybe more, when all is said and done with the 5 movies. That's a very good average, and I think that's kind of what he's alluding to. But obviously, there are problems going on with Star Wars. Whether you love the sequel trilogy or not, there's issues going on with Star Wars right now. And I just think it's interesting that he takes that line, you know what I mean, says that. It's very company man. But when we go back to his comments about the notion of exploring new and doing new, you know, I really just think that here's where we're at with Star Wars, and here's what I think is so interesting about Feige coming in. First of all, it is a branding thing. You guys know I'm a branding guy. Everybody gets crazy about it. Sometimes they're like, oh, I don't like all this business and branding talk. But let me just explain something. There's going to be this thing that happens here, and it's just simple branding, but it's going to be this thing where it's Disney Star Wars and then Feige Star Wars. The Feige Star Wars is a brand thing, and I think they will probably lean into that. And I have friends literally in real life right now that are like, you know, honestly, when it comes to episode 9 or whatever, I'm not even really interested. Like, let's just get to Feige Star Wars. It's basically where they are at with that. And Feige Star Wars is going to become a brand thing for the future. And what it represents is newness, this idea of newness. And so what he's saying here is that he loves that world. He loves the notion of exploring new people and new places in that universe, but that's sort of all that can be said for now. I mean, that just means to me that in the conversation, because he pitched a movie, the story goes that he pitched a movie and pitched a project to Kathy Kennedy, and they were essentially like, let's do it. Let's move forward on it. Now, I have sources that have told me that, look, people at Disney and people at Lucasfilm, they are really interested. They really want Feige to come over and right the ship. I mean, and it's not just, you know, the usual people that aren't really happy about Star Wars right now. It's a lot of different people. There was that gal that had the podcast that she writes for Vanity Fair. She's a pretty reputable person, and she comes out and has this podcast where she's essentially talking about how, yeah, they are definitely looking for Feige to come in and right this ship, maybe in a consulting capacity, maybe in more of a higher role capacity, but whatever. That's them saying it. Jason Ward has publicly talked about this, how they're thirsty for Feige to come over. So I don't think it's really a surprise. I don't think it's something that we need to be shy about. This is what is going on. He is supposed to come in and breathe fresh new life into this. And look, either way, even if like people are super satisfied with the end of the Skywalker saga, it's the end of the Skywalker saga. I think that we all need to sort of look for new. Star Wars franchise needs newness, and we need to figure out what the future of Star Wars looks like. And I think it's awesome to have this dude come in and do that. So even though there's not a lot to be said there, it's clear that he's going to sort of toe the company line. He's not going to speak to the potential problems with what is going on with Star Wars right now, and essentially they have made all of this money. I think that's fair. I don't think anybody can refute that. They've made a ton of money. I just think that when it comes to things like merchandising, park attendance, and some other things, that you can look at signs and say clearly the brand is not in the best place that it could be in, certainly not in the place that it was when The Force Awakens was first coming out, you know, in 2015 and 2016, like the buzz for Star Wars, it was everywhere and people loved it. The normies were coming in and eating it up. And I think that's really what Feige is brilliant at, is creating something that really scratches the back of the hardcore fans, but also makes this communal, very digestible experience for the normies or the casuals. Because like Endgame, the thing that was amazing about Endgame is it was like a cultural thing, man. We were all in it together. We were all trying to figure out what's going on with the Avengers. How are they going to beat Thanos? This is crazy. Are the heroes coming back? It was a cultural thing, man. You know, so I think that's really what Star Wars should be. It should be this thing that's widely loved, widely accepted. It shouldn't be this thing that's divisive and kind of where we're at now. So that's my honest opinion. But yeah, I think it's really cool, man. Feige comes out, is respectful, about the Scorsese thing, but kind of is also like, look, do you, but we're just going to keep crushing it over there here. And that's, I'm paraphrasing him, but that's kind of the vibes that I got from it. He talks for the first time about his Star Wars film, talking about how it's going to be new. So yeah, that's something we thought about. Very exciting to speculate about that. And then he sort of toes the company line, talking about how Star Wars has made $5 billion and kind of saying that like they've avoided fatigue, and I because the question, by the way, was posed to him in a way where it's like, well, this doesn't seem to be something that Marvel has a problem with. You've done really well avoiding fatigue over at Marvel. What's your secret? Are you looking forward to bringing that over to Star Wars? And I think they almost get him to kind of be honest about it, but he is a company guy. I mean, you're literally talking about the dude that's probably going to replace Alan Horn. Company dude. We love him, though. I think he's savage in his own way, but it's very tactful. And so that's the news, man. That's the clapbacks and the information that Feige said when talking about his Star. Kevin Feige's actually answering questions about his Star Wars movie. Woo! It's going to be very exciting stuff. But that's going to do it for this video. I do want to remind everybody, a lot of cool stuff happening this week. We are doing after shows for The Mandalorian. Tomorrow, apparently the show's going to come out very early in the morning, so I might get up, watch the show, then watch it again later on in the day. So I might do a raw reaction video, and then we will do a video that night. I believe right now we're looking at a 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the after show, where we'll all get on stream and gush out about The Mandalorian. So if you're checking out The Mandalorian sometime tomorrow, come back to the channel at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will do our after show for The Mandalorian and talk spoilers, talk the whole thing. It's going to be a very good time. And now let's check the nerd card before we get out of here. I want to know, what is the name of the character that Gina Carano plays in The Mandalorian? I've said it before. I think this is going to be new best girl, to use an anime reference, but one of our favorite new female characters is really what I mean for Star Wars. But the question remains, what's the character that Gina is playing in The Mandalorian? Answer that question in the comment section below. Guys, there's going to be a lot of videos just coming out on a daily basis here on the channel now, so just make sure you're coming back to the channel if notifications are not working for you. Sometimes YouTube's weird when you do multiple videos in a day, but there's just so much to talk about these days that I got to do a lot more videos, so I hope you don't mind, and keep coming back to the channel if you're not getting notifications. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.